How to build a portfolio of rental properties. Today we have Harpreet Chaabra today. He is a broker for 17 years, tons of experience, so we'll get some insight from him. He is an investor by himself, owned multiple properties. So welcome Harpreet, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you, Varun, for the introduction. Just a small correction. I have been in industry for 20 years, but broker only for 5 years. So, yes, and you're right. I am an investor myself and love real estate.
Amazing. Today we're going to discuss how to access the equity from your existing properties. If you're a homeowner, you might have a lot of equity in the house. So how to access the equity and invest in the real estate. So Harpreet, based on your experience in the mortgage industry for last so many years, give us some insights. What are the ways people can access the equity for the down payment to invest in the rental properties?
Very good question, Warren. Equity in the house is something which you can certainly utilize to build further into the portfolio. So if you own a principal residence and there's some equity built in, you can certainly access equity in few ways. Simplest is to do the refinance. You can refinance, take the money out, and put the additional funds towards buying the rental property. You can also access by establishing a HELOC. Some banks call HELOCs, other banks call HPLC. Technically, it's a line of credit secured against your property where you make interest-only payments. Typically, the rate of interest is a little higher on lines of credits, but the advantage of establishing a line of credit is you are paying interest-only payments. So if you're looking for some cash flow positive on the rental properties, that could be one of the strategies.
Right.
Third, certainly, not the recommended one, but you can always, if the property has appreciated significantly, if this was a principal residence, you can take the benefit of principal residence sale, sell the property, take the money out, buy a new principal along with the rental as well. Right. So a few options there. You can also establish a corporation and just transfer the funds over to the corporation in case you have excess money. There are many other ways to building the portfolio.
Right. So Harpreet, you have mentioned 4 things. So we're going to go one by one to understand in depth what are the pros and cons for each technique. So first we're going to talk about refinance. What are the criteria people need to look into? Because refinance have certain criteria, like they need to have minimum 80% loan to value or 80% equity in the 80% loan and 20% equity. So give us more insight. What are the things need to look for, and who can qualify for refinancing their mortgage?
Very good question again, Varun. This is one of the commonly asked questions. Do I qualify for refinance? As a broker, we have access to multiple lenders, multiple sources where you can access the equity. Primarily, clients will think banks are the only way to get the money out. But yes, banks are one of the major players, but there are other players as well. If you're looking for more flexibility, there will be private lending which can come into play as well. To your point, as long as you have built in some equity in the property, you can cash that equity. Typically with the banks, you need to have 20% equity left after refinance. But there are lenders who can go up to 90% as well. So depending on what you're looking for, what your final aim is, what you want to accomplish, we can look into ways to getting your money out. As you said, to give you an example of $100,000 property, you bought the property 5 years ago for $100,000. You put only, let's say, 20% down, and you have been making payments.
Right.
Unless the market has gone down significantly, there's a high probability you have built in the equity in the property, which you can take out to buy another property as well.
That's amazing point, Harpreet, you have brought up that banks can only lend up to 20% equity which you have in the property. But with the brokers, you always have options where you can even stretch out to 90% loan on your value. So don't underestimate the power or the value of the broker. Now, second question I need to ask you is, yes, we can refinance. What are the advantages of getting a loan or refinancing your current house and investing in the real estate? Because some people think that it's better to be debt free. So if you can give us some insight that power of leverage and how they can grow their wealth by refinancing, leveraging it, and growing their money by having investment properties?
Again, you're coming up with series of excellent questions, Varun. So it's not that everybody will, it's everybody's cup of tea in the sense like not everybody will appreciate that they want to refinance the house because some people really want their principal residence to be debt free. But if your risk appetite is there, you're okay with leveraging your house to your advantage, then certainly you can take the money out of the house. Okay. The house mortgage is still being paid off as long as you have a good accountant or you yourself are a good accountant who can keep track of when did you refinance. You keep paperwork there. You take the money out, invest that money, and keep track of that money, how much you took it out. That becomes your expense. So it's borrow to invest strategy. So where all the interest on the borrowed money becomes a write-off. Technically, you are not paying out of your pocket on that money. Interest is a write-off. So if all the interest which you're paying on that additional money, if you're keeping your accounting straight, it could be a straight write-off. So house is now working for you. You're still paying down your principal residence mortgage, but the additional equity you accessed is now growing at exponential rate for yourself.
That's amazing point Harpreet has brought up, that yes, if you refinance and get the money out, if you have a proper accountant, you can write off that interest. So your house becomes tax deductible. The interest you're paying on your house becomes tax deductible, certain portion which you're using to buy an investment property. And let's take an example. Let's say even if you save $1 on taxes, that becomes maybe 2 times or 3 times income earned. If you are in a 25% tax bracket, and if you save $1, it might be 2 times income earned. So a lot of times we think that because we are paying so much interest every single year, we are paying so much interest. According to the statistics, we are paying approximately 30% of our salaries to the interest cost overall. So if we can make that interest as a tax deductible, it can be amazing. So accountant can help you out to build your rental portfolio and keep paying less interest. So now second point, I would like to ask Harpreet about HELOC. How refinance is different from HELOC?
Well, technically, anytime you touch your property, if you're accessing additional money, technically it's called refinance. Now you can get the equity out by establishing a term loan in what we typically call a mortgage or a revolving facility, which we call a HELOC. HELOC means home equity line of credit. Some banks call that as HPLC, home power line of credit. So other banks may call it differently, but technically it's a secured line against your property.
Right.
Both strategies have their pros and cons. With the HELOC, you pay interest-only payments. So for many investors, especially when the interest rates are going up and the cash flow can become a little tight, HELOC works really well. They can just make interest-only payments. Interest is a write-off, so technically nothing is going out of their pocket. Right. And it's an easy way. So you take a property. Yes, the interest rate on HELOCs could be a little higher than the mortgages. HELOCs typically come at prime plus, depending on your rating. It could be prime plus 0.25 to prime plus 1% most of the times in most lenders. Nice. Mortgages, most of the times, I should be cautious saying this thing, but they are at lower rates than the HELOCs, right, depending upon your credit rating. So if you are looking for cash flow savings, HELOC could give you a little advantage. But if you're looking to pay down the loan faster and just building up your, let's say, retirement portfolio where you don't want any debt on the property and that portfolio becomes your source of income at the retirement, then we can look at the other options as well. Again, depending upon what your final aim is, there's nothing wrong with either or strategy. You need to work with your financial advisor or mortgage broker or your accountant to see which fits you well.
Right. One of the most important point Harpreet has mentioned is cash flow. For a lot of investors, cash flow is a key because sometimes the interest rate goes up or they need to have abundance of cash flow, or in some time they are getting some money from the business and they don't want to pay the interest. In that way, they can use all the money what they have got and put into the line of credit and stop paying the interest. So line of credit is like a flexibility you have, and in line of credit, as compared to the refinance mortgages, there is some prepayment penalties. But however, in HELOC, if you want to put all the money back, there is no prepayment. So it's a revolving line of credit which can be used, and a lot of advantage. The only con side is you are paying little higher interest, but over the long term period, if you are putting all your money into that, you might be paying less interest. So numbers are just illusionary. If you look at the long term and Excel sheets, sometimes you're paying a lot less interest, and that's another way to go. And the third thing we want to discuss, that sometimes some people take a private loans, hard money, to go and invest. So what are the pros and cons, and how people can do it, and what are the risks involved in taking a private loan or hard money to build a rental properties?
I'll say, Varun, private money typically we suggest is only for the short term. You need to have an exit strategy when you're taking a private money. If you're coming across an opportunity where the banks will not qualify you and it's a really good opportunity and you want to cash on that opportunity, private mortgages could be the way to go. They make lots of exceptions. Many times there are lenders who will not even need anything. So if there's a portfolio you want to build, short term is if your aim is to just renovate and flip, or if your aim is that you will have access to funds down the road and you just need it for short-term bridge, private money comes into play. Many reasons to use private money could include, as I said, flip properties, renovate properties, build, and you might be max at 80% loan to value with the banks and you still need access to the money. Private money can come into play for you.
Amazing. So a lot of investors who caps out sometimes have 5-6 rental properties and banks don't give them loan, and they're looking for some money, and they find some amazing deals for the flip where they can make $50,000, $100,000 in 6 months, 8 months turnaround time. So in that way, private money comes into a play, and as a brokers, we have access to a lot of options for the private money. In that way, we can connect some investors with the lenders who are willing to lend the money, and there is a risk involved, but if you know the numbers right, how to flip the property or what's the project ROI, return on investment, yes, it can be really game changer for a lot of investors, because we come across seasoned investors who are capped out. They don't have much cash flow because they have already capped out to 5-10 rental properties, and they still find some great opportunity from their network, and still they make the deals work. So private money is always to have in your back pocket to shop around if you find a right deal. So these are 3 main strategies people use, and another strategy which Harpreet was mentioning, selling the home and then going and buying a new house and a rental property. Harpreet, if you want to give some more insight into that strategy for the investors.
Again, you have to be very cautious with this strategy. You need to make sure your taxes are not being impacted. You're taking advantage of the principal residence exemption. So speak to your accountant before doing this thing. But let's say somebody has been living in the property for 10 years and they are also looking to move into the new principal residence. This could be ideal scenario where they can just sell their existing principal, get the money out, and buy a new principal. At the same time, they can also build up some rental portfolio as well. It could be duplex, triplex, multi-unit buildings, whatever they're looking to do, we can assist in that case as well. So principal residence exemption is one of the very big advantages you can take advantage of. Look at the Sierra guidelines before you use this strategy.
That's amazing that if you have a big house and you want to buy some investment property, you can sell it and buy maybe triplex, fourplex, and live in the one unit and rent out the another units. In that way, you have a rental properties where rent is coming and you're also living in one unit. So in this way, overall we can really grow our rental portfolio in a nice way and build a wealth. Because in real estate, you are using the leverage. You are just putting 20 to 25% down payment and holding the asset for 100%. So you're always leveraged 4 to 5 times. If your annual return is 5% on average for the real estate over the long term, it means you're making a return of 25 times if you're having a leverage of 5 times. So 5% return, 5 times leverage, multiply both, we get a 25% return. And it's hard to go and have a stable returns over the long period of time anywhere with this rate of return. So it's the best way to build a wealth